Hello, my fellow broke aristocrats. Good to see you all today on this Wednesday, where weekly we talk about staying healthy, frugal living, all things frugal. And we take you all around the world to talk about frugal living and healthy living and to see if we can learn something about how to stay healthy and frugal from other cultures. Today, I'm very excited to be talking about a part of the world that has had me enamored for quite a while, and that is Ikaria Greece. Ikaria Greece. And this is an interesting part of the world. It is a blue zone, meaning that it is a part of the world where we see a high concentration of people living healthfully to 100 and beyond. But before we go to Ikaria Greece, we're going to talk a little bit about my tea selection today. Because the people of Ikaria drink a lot of herbal teas, I decided that today I'd switch to an herbal tea, and it's a very cost-effective tea that anybody can have in their home, and it has medicinal properties. And I chose the Tazo brand peppermint tea. No milk today, right? No milk in a peppermint tea. It's just an herbal tea from peppermint, no caffeine in it. Peppermint's been found to be helpful for people who suffer from gas, bloating, upset stomach, or irritable bowel syndrome. It also seems to help prevent heartburn, that people who consume peppermint tea on a daily basis have less heartburn. So those are some of the medicinal properties of peppermint. It's interesting, as a plant it's considered cooling and heartburn is hot. So probably early on people discovered that when they drank this tea, some of their heartburn would go away. All right, so I'm going to take a sip. We want to do it ladylike here. And of course I waited for it to cool because we learned in last week's tea time that hot tea is associated with increased risk for esophageal cancer, right? So is heartburn, by the way. So we really want to make sure that the tea cools a little bit so that we're not scalding the back of our throat. This is a very mild tea, but it's quite delicious. It's very good. All right, so that was the Tazo peppermint if you'd like to try it yourself. So I want to talk a little bit about Ikaria Greece today, which, as I said, is a blue zone, and how I got interested in it. Ikaria Greece. It had to do with an article. I think I found the article on CNN. It was several years ago, and it involved a man. Let me see if I can pronounce his name right. Yanis Karamalis. And he's an interesting person because in the 1960s, he was living in the United States, or excuse me, 1970s, and he wasn't feeling very well, and his doctors had him come in and they ran some tests. This was in the 1970s. And Mr. Karamalis was diagnosed with stomach cancer. And he was told that he only had a few short months to live and that he should get his house in order. So he decided to move back to his homeland. So he moved to Ikaria, Greece, and that is where he stayed happily for another 40-something years with his family, living the good life. He didn't die. Now, people wanted to talk to his doctors to try and find out what his doctor's opinion was about the fact that this gentleman was Mr. Karamalis was still alive and did not have stomach cancer. But unfortunately, the doctors who treated Mr. Karamalis are deceased. So his doctors died, but he is alive and well. So what the heck is going on there? So this led scientists to research Ikaria, and they found that not only was Mr. Karamalis doing very well, but so were several members of his family, and so was the entire village, and that they had high concentrations of people living to 100 and beyond. So what did Mr. Karamalis do that seems to have cured his stomach cancer? Well, we don't know for sure, but we've got a couple theories. One is that they have natural, this was very interesting to me, they have natural hot springs on the island. They have natural hot springs on the island, and these natural hot springs give off, they have radon, and radon is an unstable ion. It's unstable, and so it gives off radiation. So every time he was getting into a hot spring at the local hot spring bath, he was being exposed to low dose radiation. So they think that that had an effect on his DNA, and it had an effect on possibly regressing the cancer. So the hot springs, every day people would go down and they would give themselves a low dose of radiation. This is one area that they're looking at, the radioactive substances of radon possibly having an impact on longevity. So that was really interesting, the fact that he was basically giving himself a treatment every day. But there's more that they found about Ikaria that I thought people would find interesting. And this is interesting from a frugal health perspective. They found actually that the people who were poorest in Ikaria, the poorest of the poor, the people who were the most frugal, and this is something we're also seeing in Okinawa, we're seeing the frugal people are the ones outliving everybody else. So what they found was that in the mountain people of Ikaria, who were the poorest of the poor, they are living the longest. They had the highest concentration of centenarians. So what did that mean? Well, for starters, it changed their diet. They couldn't afford to eat meat every day because they were the poorest of the poor. So where does this take us? It takes us back to what we have spoken about before here at Broke Aristocrats. The poor had to dramatically reduce their consumption of meat, and so they were relying on calories from fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, etc., because the poorest of the poor were doing their own gardening, which meant they were out being physically active and working. Their most common mode of transportation was walking, and they had to walk up and down the mountain. So they were getting vigorous exercise. They were getting vigorous exercise, and they were eating a mostly plant-based diet because it was more cost effective. I wanted also to give a shout out to Sensible Money Mom Dawn today. I really loved the video she did, and I'm so glad she put it out about basically that she was bringing in the good, so there was no room for the bad. She was, okay, I can eat whatever I want, I can eat as much as I want, but I have to do 7 to 8 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. I think that that's a great technique because dieting doesn't work. What does work is healthy lifestyles, which means we see calorie restriction. Frugal people in Ikaria are living longer than other people in the globe because they're eating less animal products, they're eating less calories, and they're being physically active. So they're only taking in the good. They can't afford junk food. They can't afford eating lots of meat, and they can't afford a tractor trailer. So they're, or a tractor, so that they're going to have to go out and they're going to do their own farming by hand. This also is something we see in healthy weight loss. If you're having struggles with weight loss, if you're not losing weight as fast as you would like, it could be physical exercise is the issue, because muscle consumes massive amounts of calories. So when we don't have a lot of muscle, we're going to be burning calories more slowly. So the solution is exercises that build muscle. You certainly want to do cardio, you want to protect your heart like the mountain people of Ikaria, but you also want to be doing plenty of weight-bearing exercises so that you can increase muscle mass, and you will see weight loss happening far more dramatically. So those are things we see in Ikaria. We also see in Ikaria that they drink copious amounts of herbal teas, which is why I decided to drink some herbal tea here for all of you today. And what they think about the herbal teas: oregano tea, mountain sage, which is delicious if you ever want to try mountain sage. And mountain sage tea can also be used as a wash. It's been used to treat cystic acne, mountain sage. But you can get Greek mountain sage tea at any Greek supply store, or you can get it on Amazon.com. So it has amazing antiseptic properties, but these teas are loaded with antioxidants, and antioxidants are substances that help reduce free radicals in the body, or substances in the body that can cause us to age more quickly. Napping, we talked about that in a previous video a couple of days ago, how the Victorians would get to bed soon after the sun went down because kerosene was expensive. They didn't have electric light bulbs quite yet. And they would also do napping in the daytime when it was too hot to work in the fields. Again, here in Ikaria, we see the importance of napping. Fasting is a big part of the culture of Ikaria. They are Greek Orthodox, and so they have many fasting days for the saints. And this is, again, proven science that, I know people are like, no, don't make it true, but unfortunately is true. A lot of research has gone into calorie restriction and how calorie restriction does, in fact, promote longevity. They don't eat a lot of dairy. The island really cannot promote a lot of consuming of a cattle industry, and so instead they drink goat's milk, which seems to be a little bit easier on the stomach. Okay, also they basically kept a Mediterranean diet, high in omega-3s, high in whole grains, nuts and seeds, high in plants, calorie restriction, vigorous exercise, close communities, lots of close family bonds. They found that senior citizens had less dementia, were sexually active well into their senior years, had long, stable relationships. Again, going back to what we've talked about in the past, what we saw in Japan, what we saw in traditional Victorian society, this idea of temperance, balance. They do lack their uzu, which is a very strong drink made from, I think, anise seed. So they do drink a little bit of alcohol, but never in excess, again, because the frugal people of Ikaria are on strict budgets, and so they can never overdo anything. They have to be balanced. They have to engage in temperance because it's the most cost effective. All right, so those are the people of Ikaria. And a special shout out to our friends over at Sensible Living Money Mom, Dawn, who's doing a great, I don't want to call it a diet, a lifestyle choice, which really is closer to what we see is going to promote longevity and lasting weight loss. I don't think diets work, but I do think healthy changes over time can get us to a healthy weight and can promote longevity, and the research seems to support that. All right, thanks everybody for watching this Tea Time with Broke Aristocrats. Tomorrow we're going to go through specifically vitamins and nutrition. We're going to cover everything: vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, etc., and what is the best diet for the human body, with very specific information about the cheapest and most frugal way to get the best nutrition possible. Okay, I really enjoy doing this, and I hope you all enjoy watching. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.